Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode, actually, episode 8 of Talking with Ty, season 2. For those of you who it is your first time tuning in with us, Talking with Ty is an unscripted lifestyle podcast, and we focus on the story behind the brand. Every Tuesday, I invited guests, and guys, I am very strategic about the guests that I invite because I feel like I have a responsibility to my listeners and to make sure that I'm bringing in the very best people to share their experience with you, to share their life's journey and how they have pivoted in their career or whatever their story might be. But I know that their story is going to resonate with somebody out there. I believe that it's the personal side of our life that connects us to the story. It's our story that connects us with people. And I think I say this every Tuesday when I come on and I say, you meet somebody and you're like, you have this crush on somebody famous all your life. This is your person. I can't wait till I meet them. And then you meet them and you hear their story or you see them on Oprah, because Alex Jack, you said I'm the Oprah podcast. And so, boop, boop. So you see them on Oprah and they're having this interview and you realize they're beginning like somebody like Tyler Perry. And it's like, oh my God, I resonated with that person. I started out from a humble beginning also. If they made it, I can make it. And all of a sudden, that person gives you hope. That is my mission every single Tuesday, guys. When I bring somebody on my platform and they share their platform with me and I'm sharing my platform with them, it's just about telling a story. I randomly choose these people. These are people that through my multifamily career, I've had an interaction with and just a small exchange because believe it or not, guys, these are not people that I know. These are not people that I'm sitting on the phone with all the time. These are people that sometimes I've only had one interaction with, but it was a life changing moment. And I want them to share, or I want to share them with my platform and with my audience. So today, we have someone so special. I have been running this man down, y'all, to get him on here because I know that he has something to talk about. So today, guys, we get to have the conversation with Greg Cerbana. Greg is an experienced professional with with a demonstrated history of working in the real estate industry. He is a strong media and communications operator and a collector of people. Greg says, I strive for connectedness, authenticity, passion, and purpose. Today, we're going to talk about more of how did Greg get started in the multifamily industry? We're going to talk about mentorship and why it's important to Greg. We're also going to dive deep into how did Greg get involved in NAA? Because I know that's something we all want to know. How did he get involved and where is he going? Hopefully, we get that out of him today on Talking with Ty. We're also going to talk about the importance of giving back to Greg. But most importantly, guys, Greg is a smart man. We are going to talk about why his wife is his rock. So shout out and kudos to Sloan Cerbana out there. We always see her with Greg because we know behind every brilliant man, there is a super brilliant woman. So without further ado, if you are sitting at your desk, I always say it, if you are eating lunch, if you are in your car, please give us a huge round of applause as we welcome Greg Cerbana to the stage.
Hey, hey, how's it going?
Hi, Greg. Welcome.
You can
Welcome to
hear
Talking
me.
with I. Yes, I can hear you. Y'all, this is the thing about like y'all don't even understand the things that we go through from wardrobe malfunctions all the way down to technology before we get to the end. So Greg had some problems, but the devil is a lie. We
There
was
you
gonna get
go.
him on here and we were going to talk about it. So
I'm here. It made it. I had to
welcome.
log out and come back in, but I'm so grateful to be here. And after that big build up there, I'm hopeful I live up to the hype because I'll tell you, I've been a little nervous actually thinking about
Yeah,
a meeting with you. I've watched a number of your podcasts, and believe it or not, this is the first podcast I'm ever on. My kids told me the other day, "Wait a sec, Dad, you're on a podcast. What are you doing? Why are they talking to you?" I'm like, because I think people like me a little bit.
You know
So,
what? It is not that just people like you. I'm a person, you hear before, and it's so cliche to say, if you make a person feel a way, they'll remember you for a lifetime. The
mm,
first time I met you was at Advocate in DC.
hmm.
I was standing there with Shakur O'Connor's. You walked up, we were going into Starbucks. You walked up, we started talking about Widener and how you guys had taken over a property here in Arkansas. And that was a brief encounter with you, but you were so welcoming at that point that when I saw you later on that year at AOD, that's when I was with my Melanin and Multifamily crew. And
Yeah.
I really got to experience you, and not just experience you standing there talking to you, but actually experiencing you open up the door and, in a silent way saying, come in.
Mm,
Come with me. These are my people. Like, I got y'all. Who do you want to meet? What do you want to do? And that goes so far with me because usually that happens. And I'm going to be honest, in the multifamily industry, it's women that do that for
mm,
each other. You're
mm,
probably my first encounter with a man and with a man of color. So
mm.
that's why I was so intrigued and I chased you down in my heels
You did
last
too, by
time I
the way,
saw you.
folks. I'm gonna tell you, she did. She chased me down. I thought we were. I didn't know. I had to get a
I
little worried
stalked
there
this
for a second.
man, guys, all in his inbox on LinkedIn because I knew that it was something that you had to say to the people and we had to have the conversation. So, Greg Cerbana,
Yes,
who
ma'am.
are you? Who are you?
I'm just this kid from Hawaii, man. It's interesting. People ask me that a lot, and especially in this industry, and I say to them all the time, I feel like I'm a kid. Now my body doesn't feel like I'm a kid. I was at the doctor the other day, and he reminds me that I'm getting older and the things I did, 2, 10, 5 years ago, I can't do now. But I feel like I'm this kid from Hawaii who's just been blessed, right? I'm in this suit and but at heart I could be in slippers and shorts and on a beach someplace for the rest of my life. And so I think that laid back vibe, my island vibe, my people back in Hawaii really color the person that I've become, both professionally and personally. And so, if you ask me who I am, I'm this kid that's just been blessed, man. I come from humble beginnings. My dad was in the Army, didn't graduate from high school. My mom really ran the house. Don't tell my dad I said this, but in a moment, in a quiet moment, he'll tell you. He knows that she's the one who kept us, our family of my four siblings and myself, together. And we traveled the world as an army brat family, and so we left the Rock and ended up all throughout the United States. And so I think that flexibility, that exposure to different cultures, living abroad, relying on our family unit, not having a lot, being hard scrabble, coming up, being the 5 cent milk kids and the hand-me-down clothes kids and moving from place to place. That made us compact. That made us tight. That made us um, really appreciate our values and where we were from, and uh, and never forget that. And so, I mean that's the origin story, if you will, and it
But you
goes
know what?
from
I
there.
I love that because, and I told this to Stephanie Anderson last week when I spoke to her. Everybody that it seems like I'm drawn into and get the most hype from the melanin, because I go to my crew,
Uh-huh.
Dana, Ashia, Monica. We talk about who should I bring on next. They throw names out there. Oh, you should bring on this person. You should bring on this person. Every person who we advocate for, though, when I get them on here, it's always I find out how they came from humble beginnings.
Mm,
Your father didn't have a high school diploma. When I talked to Alex Jackie, her family came over here with broken English. She came from
mm,
like Stephanie was a minority in her school,
mm.
but it's those beginnings that sets the foundation and set you up for the trailblazer that you are today. So
Thank
we
you.
started as a kid with humble beginnings. We're from Hawaii. How
Mm.
did you end up in the multifamily industry?
Well, it's a long story, but I can get back to it. I do want to give a shout out to. I see Aishia, she's in over here, and I happened to be with her last week in Chicago. We were serving together on a volunteer task force, and so I just wanted to shout her out and tell her I did have the equivalent of water ice that night at a ball game. So I'm looking forward to Philly and having authentic water ice. And if y'all don't know, we'll have a long conversation at AOD perhaps. But how did I get into this industry? The truth is, Sloan and I have been married. That power couple that somebody talked about. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm I don't get it twisted. The power comes from her. I've been blessed by God to be together, her and I, now for 31 years. We've been married for 31 years, and when I say that, it really reminds me that I got to get a new headshot, because that one before, less gray, not as, I mean, so I'm getting older. My kids remind me of that, but I feel young, and we've gone on this journey of life together, and I'm very blessed to be able to be in the same industry as her.
Mm-hmm.
But I started years ago. We were down in the Bay Area and got pregnant. We got pregnant with our first child, and we were moving back here to Washington State. We'd left after college. We met in college.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna tell you right now that she's the one who approached me. Um, but uh, but we dated all through college, got married the following Saturday after I graduated, and then we moved. We went down. She's the one who had the job, and so I followed her. And I've been proud of her since day one. But when we got pregnant, we decided family was important, right? I talked to you about that family unit in my culture, Ohana, being around each other and helping each other, taking a village to raise a child was very
Mm-hmm.
important to us. And so we moved back up here to Washington State, and I was in retail at the time, and I took over this retail store as a men's suit store, shockingly enough. Um, but this young lady was stealing from us, right? And my regional manager said, "Hey, I got this store for you, but I think this young gal is stealing from us." I said, "No problem. I'll go ahead and do the investigation. I don't have a problem terminating somebody if that's the case." Sure enough, young lady was, the till was short and suits were missing and all kinds of stuff. But it was around Christmas time, and I couldn't, I really didn't want to let her go, because otherwise it'd just be me. And so one day she walks in, and with another gal, and she turns in her key, says, "I'm quitting." And this was back in the early 90s. And she said, "I'm leaving. This is my last day. I'm gonna go work in the apartment industry. I'm working Monday through Friday, 9 to 6. I get a free apartment, and I'm gonna make $24,000 a year." And I said, "Monday through Friday," because remember, I was in
Right, you're in retail.
I was in retail. So that was really the origin story. And she quit, and I finished out the Christmas season. And then afterwards I ended up calling the old manager of the first apartment that Sloan and I ever lived in down in Reno, Nevada. And I said, "Hey, do you remember us? It was a couple years ago, but we were one of the only ones who actually used the pool. We used the pickleball court. We used all the stuff that 95% of people don't use, but we didn't know anybody, right? We were
Mhm.
new to the area, and so we actually use it. So we had a nice conversation, and he told me it was about 400 unit apartment community, and he put me on to the National Apartment Association, told me about this industry, and then the rest was history. So that's how I got in. I started working for Equity Residentials. First property was a 750 unit apartment community. I was a leasing agent. I was making 8.50 an hour instead of $8 because I had two college degrees. Mom wasn't too happy about that. Private school, private Jesuit school, Seattle University, shout out. But mom wasn't too happy about that for that extra 50 cents, but it's grown over the years. So I
I
guess I
want
did
to
okay.
say all of the entry stories that I've
Hmm.
heard into this industry. My mom worked in it. I was looking for an apartment. Nobody has never told me that they were going to terminate somebody that was stealing.
Hmm.
And then they are the ones that turned them on to the multifamily industry. That's why I love our industry.
You want to know the ice cream on the cake on that story? I saw her a year later, right? And she was still in the industry. But we were at an awards ceremony. I ended up winning. The For Rent magazine up here in Washington State used to own kind of the big apartment awards show, the annual apartment
Mhm.
awards show. And so I was up for an award. I ended up winning Rookie of the Year. And I saw her there. And that was the last time I ever saw her. So, so 31 years later, I'm still here. Or excuse me, almost 30 years later, I'm still here. And Angela was her name. Angela's no longer in the industry. She got fired.
So, getting started as a leasing professional, because you know what, and I think we all fall into this because you're right. You're like Monday through Friday, and when you start in it and you start making leasing commissions, when you're a person who connects with people well, it's a really great job.
Yeah.
So, how did you grow from being coming in this industry in leasing to where you are now? Because what is your actual title right now?
I'm the vice president of public relations and government affairs, and I handle all our philanthropy for Widener Apartment Homes. So I work directly for Mr. Widener, and I could have never thought. I mean, the world is my oyster. I could have never imagined that, even in my mind's eye. So many years ago, starting as a leasing agent, 750 unit apartment community. Within 2 weeks, I was the assistant. Y'all know how that was back in the day, right?
Hmm.
Everybody quit, and then all of a sudden, this kid who doesn't know what he's doing has a pretty good head on his shoulders and pretty good with people, but I'm managing a seven. I mean, there is no general manager at the time. They hadn't hired somebody, so I'm just trying to figure it out. And 750 is large, right? And so
That's huge.
yeah, yeah. So from that point to now, I really have one of those topics that I asked for us to talk about is mentorship
Hmm.
and how you're able to bring people along. And I think innate into who I am is that, but I needed that person in my life too. I was craving that. And the woman, matter of fact, the woman that I consider to be my mentor in this industry, she just texted me about 20 minutes ago, and so we stay in touch till today. She is, again, this is an opportunity. This is an industry of opportunity. This is a woman
Yes.
who doesn't have a college degree, but through grit and perseverance and just being innately connected with people and smart, she and taking risks, she now owns, but she's part owner partner of her own property management firm. And so I've watched her career ascend, and I was able to hold her coattails there for a long time. She supported me and I support her to this day. So it's pretty cool to see how that happens, and the ability to give back is really at the core of my story.
Well, you know what? I love that because we were on the call with Melissa this morning and we were talking about being able to ride somebody coattail and then
Hmm.
being able to open up the door for other people. And that is one of the things about this industry. And I think why some of us love it so much. I resonate with that story so well about your mentor because I'm not a person with a college degree.
Hmm.
I'm a person with a high school diploma that started leasing early in my 20s with through grit and grind and my just natural ability to connect with people. I stayed a leasing professional for 6 months,
Mm.
became an assistant property manager, served on the supplier side, and now the executive over an entire state. And I never
Yeah.
would have thought that in my wildest dreams that I would do all the things that I'm doing and be connected with all the people like you who I'm connected to through this industry.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
mentorship, I know you touched on it, but what does mentorship mean to you, and what does it look like to you though?
Yeah, I mean, I think mentorship is a couple of different things. And I think first and foremost, you have a responsibility, not an opportunity, but you have a responsibility to give back when you can, to hold the door open, as you say, to bring people along, to open up the window into your life and to take whatever influence that you have, however fleeting it is, right? Because our influence can be something today and be super different tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
But at whatever point you are in your career, whatever you have at that moment, it's your opportunity and your responsibility to give that back. I firmly believe that. I think a lot of people wait until a time in their career, or wait until a time that they have the finances, or wait until a time where they believe their influence is enough for them to start to give back. And I disagree. I think that in your journey, whether it's your faith journey, your relationship journey, your professional journey, all that, you can be given back from day one in any way that you can to make tomorrow a better day than it is today. And so, I think it makes a lot more sense for us if we are have a journey of and a lifetime of giving back. And in this case, in terms of mentorship, I actually believe that I've been the benefactor of other people doing that for me. And so
Hmm.
again, my responsibility. I got to tell you something. I want to make my parents proud. I want to make that dad of mine who to till today, I was at his house this weekend helping him out. We were putting together a new table and chairs and helping him cut the grass and bringing his grandchildren down to him to share time, because to him that's the most important thing, right?
Hmm.
To share time. You and I and the folks that are on here right now and anybody who might see this, we have an opportunity. We have a moment to share time, and it's
Hmm.
how you take advantage of that, to make an indelible mark or an impression on somebody. And more than just an impression, if you have an opportunity to bring them along, how dare you not do that? That's what I think.
You know what? This is why everybody likes you. I'm so mesmerized. I'm sitting here like Greg is such a great. Marcy always says it though. She's
Mm,
one of your biggest advocates in our group. She always says how much of a great guy you are. And like seriously, you're when you're talking about your family, and I know that you're a dad because I've seen some of your pictures on
mm,
Facebook, and you're a husband. So before we get to talking about how you got involved with NAA, let's
yeah,
pause for a moment and talk about balance with family because through the
yeah,
grit and grind of coming from a leasing professional to a VP, that's work.
yeah,
If the people who work in this industry, we know that this is not a 9 to 5. It can start out that
no,
way. It
yeah,
can start out with no weekends, but it doesn't end that way. So
yeah,
you were already married to your college sweetheart,
yeah.
already had a family when you came into the industry.
I
So
did.
how did you balance being a husband and a dad and a son and rise to the top of the industry?
Yeah, if anybody tells you it's easy, they're lying,
Yeah.
because it's not, right? So we had our battles. Sloan and I went through, the mountains of our relationship, and we went through the valleys, right? And so, as a man of faith, I knew that there was eyes on the prize that was farther along than what I could see. Even when I didn't know that, I knew that, right? Even when I couldn't see that, I knew that. And my wife really, you took one of those comments that I've written someplace, and I've said that she is a rock. She is a firm foundation upon which to build our relationship on, and we've been able to see ourselves through a lot of those valleys. By relying on each other, by having our faith together, by understanding that, as humans, there are things that we have to do, we are compelled to do, and that's for me as a provider, right? As somebody who wants to provide for my family and never let them go hungry. I don't know, I was a scrapper. I tried to figure it out. Living on site helped, and I would put these kids to bed, and I would go back to the office, right? And
Yeah.
and I would do the back then you didn't have a laptop, right? So you had to go back to the
You had to go
office
back
to
to the
do some of
office.
that
That's right.
work. And so we made it through. But I will tell you, there were some real downtimes. I got a lot of respect, and I see some folks on here that are in the fee world, right? The third party fee
Hmm.
management world, and I got a ton of respect for them because I worked in that world for a brief time, just shy of 3 years, and um, boy, I realized real quick that wasn't for me, and for a number
Hmm.
of different reasons. But at the end of the day, I had some of my lowest moments there. I was I was a Sunday, and I went to church with the family, took my own car, and then went back to the office and was working, just trying to catch up. And about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, I get a phone call from my pastor, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? I want to call you and see how you're doing." I broke down. I started crying. I said,
Hmm.
"I can't do this anymore. I need to have. I strive for more balance in my life." And so I had to find something different that was going to work for me. And that's just my story. I'm sure that's not everybody's, but at times in your career, when
Hmm.
you know that you're overwhelmed, when you know that there are too many things on your plate that you're giving your energy and your time towards, and it's not edifying. Sure, it's putting food on the table. Like I said, that's part of my responsibility, but that's not what life's all about, right? And at least in my view. And so I've truly been, full circle to a place now, where I work for a person, a man who understands balance, who understands giving back, who understands taking people where they're at, putting them in their optimal position, and allowing them to do their thing. And so, I guess part of I get asked a lot, if you have recommendations or for people's careers, or what sort of advice do you have? I got a lot of them. I'll share some of them with you if you want, but one of them is
Yes. No.
find
We.
your
This is
place.
what we want from you. Drop them like drop
Find
them.
your place. You got to find your place, and then you have to, you have to lean in and live there. And because here's the truth: no matter what you believe today, so many of your friends are going to fall away in time, right? The people who you consider friends today may not be those tomorrow. But those who are there for the long haul, they really are precious, and those deep and authentic friendships can only be centered. And here's going to be something where I'm the old guy. My wife said, watch out for saying things that are going to make you feel and look old, Greg. But the truth is, um, deep and authentic, in my view, deep and authentic friendships can only really be cemented in the real world. Um, Social media, in my mind, has warped our ideas of what it means to be genuine and in a relationship like IRL in the real world. We've
Hmm.
really become accustomed to, and I think too comfortable with what I call drive-through experiences,
Yeah.
240 characters or 30-second sound bites. And that's the type of shallow sort of effort we really are affording ourselves of today. And we are allowing ourselves to have, right? So I'm going to just say pour into the relationships that matter, because the real ones are going to be there no matter what, when all else fails. So
You know what? No, I'm over here taking notes too. Because this is exactly why I brought you on. I love that. Find your place. You said, I'm gonna go back to when you said that you talked to your pastor and you said you cried
I
because
did.
you crave that balance. And maybe not all people in this industry feel that way, but I want to back you up by saying 90% of us, though,
Mm,
I'm sure, who work for fee management have felt that way, though. So I love that you said find your place.
yeah.
Find your place
No.
because you only have one life to live. And balance is so important because in this industry, it's an industry of people and we give out so much that you have to be poured into and you have to be at a place where you feel secure pouring out, but also getting your cup filled as
Yeah.
equally.
Yeah, I think, it's important to get your cup filled by those around you that are going to pour into it. And then again, like I said before, you have a responsibility, right? You have a to kokua, to give back when you're ready. Like I said, no amount of money that you have or success will make you feel ready to give back, because it's a habit, right? And you have to take that muscle, that habit, and you have to flex it, right? And it's one worth developing. Giving back, I think, starting today and giving back and giving more tomorrow is important. And again, whether that's in the mentorship world, whether that's in your time, whether that's in your talent, I'm at a place now in my career where I mean, it's the great. I've Everybody here that I've talked to in real life knows that I believe that my job is the best one in this industry, and I'm not just saying that. But I get an opportunity to give back. They call me the bald Hawaiian Santa Claus when I come into town sometimes, because, like I said, I'm a pretty good guy. I think I get along with a lot of folks. I'm okay, in a large crowd. I'm never going to be a shrinking violet, but I'm also pretty cognizant of the fact that I do come now with a checkbook, right? I do have an opportunity for some of the philanthropy work, the significant philanthropy work we do as an industry and particularly as a company. And so the ability to make monumental change in markets, through philanthropy and giving and investment is something that's not lost upon me. And I give thanks every day for being able to do that.
You know what? Because it's a blessing to be a blessing.
Mm,
When you are able to give, when you are able to, whether it's employing people, philanthropy work, fundraising, when you are giving of your time, but when you are able to give and that's what's make you feel special, I love that because it's bigger than us.
hmm.
Everybody that rises to the top in this industry understands the concept of it's bigger than me.
Mm.
So I really like that. I do want to say before we move on, Monica Frazier, you heard Greg say that Widener does philanthropy work and charity and loves to give back. So maybe you should call him and set up a conversation about the melanin and multifamily stuff that we have going on and see if there's a way
Mm.
that we could collaborate with Widener Properties. Just wanted to say that. So,
You're taking a shot. I like that about you. Take a
yes,
shot.
so involved with NAA. Greg, a lot of us, myself included, I'm a baby when it comes to I've been in this industry for 20 years and I'm
Mm,
still a baby
mm,
when it comes to NAA though. And it's because of the exposure and finally getting to a job where I was able to come to a lot more national things
yeah.
and serve on committees and things. So how did you get started and what would you say to people who are like myself who are wanting to climb the ladder and go to the top and serve?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
No, that's great. Thank you for the platform. First off, I got to say, I am an association fan. I would say that whether my wife worked at one or not, but I started my career. Um, I started my career in association work many years ago with over 20 years ago at the Washington Multifamily Housing Association. WMFA is the NAA affiliate, the state affiliate here in Washington State,
Mhm.
and I had the pleasure and the honor of being part of the initial group that was approached by NAA to say, "Hey, should there be a chapter there?" So, as a founding member, we went through all of the research as to why would we join NAA, why would we start paying dues, what's in it for us. We did that whole value proposition. At the end of the day, we realized, boy, it's more than just working in this industry. We need people working on our behalf, something that
Mhm.
we couldn't do for ourselves. So collectively, this group of leadership here in Washington State came together and formed the association, connected with NAA, and that started my journey. But the truth of it was, I didn't get to the federal level. I didn't get to NAA itself for maybe 15 years into my career, right? So
Mhm.
I spent most of that initial early time building the local affiliate, being part of that, being on the founding board of that, being a volunteer on the committees, helping to transition. Yeah, I talked to you about the For Rent awards here, transitioning that from
Mhm.
a supplier member for rent who graciously gave that up. They'd held that mantle, they'd held up that responsibility for years, but they recognized that once there was a legitimate apartment association in the marketplace, it really belonged there. So transitioning that there, having our very first events, getting people involved, realizing that people are involved in associations for a variety of reasons, but there's only a few, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what's important to me may not be important to you, but there's only a few. One of them being government affairs, another one being connection, right? And
Mhm.
so advocate here in Washington, and I think other places, they advocate, educate, celebrate, right? So advocate is government affairs, educate is training and development, and celebrate is the connectedness um, that we strive for, right? The ability to get people from different companies together and sharing ideas and those sorts of things. So the truth is, I went through all of that here at the local affiliate. Was a
Mhm.
past president there, and as a result of that, started being able to see what the NAA was doing, what they were doing at the federal level, and how that was affecting us at the state level. And as I said before, coming into I started as a leasing agent. I was in operations for most of my career. If you're a good operator, you can get a job wherever or throughout the
Yeah.
United States. And when Mr. Widener came to me about 10 years ago and said, "Hey, I want you to start this new department on my behalf," getting out into the community. And, instead of us being in communities and just extracting from them, how can we get integrated into those communities? How can we
Mhm.
spread our knowledge, our EK, right? And be able to affect, the business community, the surrounding community, the way that people are living
Mhm.
in those communities. And so I got that role, but part of that meant that I got to go to NAA. I was our NAA affiliate, and that started with him making a significant contribution to the Education Institute. Shout
Well,
out to NAAEI.
and I love that you talk about you started on the local level first.
Yeah.
I'm the AE here in Arkansas, and that's one of the things that I push, and that's how I got involved in kind of have the passion to serve. Because even when I was on site here, I've always served on committees. I've always spoke up on behalf of the people who worked in the industry, so it's
Mm,
a natural progression for me to go the NAA route.
yeah.
So when you got involved with the National Apartment Association, and I think this is a question that everybody wants to know. You
Yes.
started on the committee because we've all been committee members. Ashia is our vice chair. She's made it to that point. How do you, if you say, you know what, one day I want to be the chairman of the board,
Hmm.
if that's somebody's dream that's on this call,
Hmm.
what does that progression look like from
Yeah.
being a committee member to running the show?
Did you freeze up or did I freeze up?
I,
Hello?
can you hear me?
Oh, I got you now. There you go.
So my question was,
Yeah.
how does it look like from starting as a committee member to being the head honcho of
Okay.
NAA?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question and one that's kind of pertinent right now, right? Because I started just coming. As a result of a donation to I started on the EI side, right? And I tipped my toes. I dipped my toes in the Education Foundation and the Institute, and trying to figure out what that was all about. And Mr. Widener had made a seven-figure donation, and it was my job to ensure that the commitments that EI made to us and to the industry were things that they were
Mhm.
going to live up to. And by the way, they certainly have. And I'm such a fan. So I mean, if you want to get involved, whether it's at the in the NAA side or the EI side, there's many opportunities. And interestingly enough, that volunteer task force that I was in last week are looking at different ways for us to have a broader cross section of our membership
Mm-hmm.
participate at the NA level, because not everybody can fly, right? Not everybody can
Right.
attend. Not everybody can come to those. But in this day and age where we're doing what we're doing right now, I'm sitting here in Washington, you're sitting here,
Mm-hmm.
you're across the United States, but we're
Right.
able to do some of this. So distance learning and distance participation are ways for us to get people connected. I think that that's important. So you start at that committee level, you start at a task force level, you start at giving your input, and frankly, you start at showing up. You got to
Yep.
show, you got to be there, right? You have to demonstrate. And because at the end of the day, I'm a shoot it to you straight. A lot of people who come around are a flash in the pan,
Yep.
and folks who are there and they've got great ideas, but many people got great ideas,
Yep.
right? And it's whether or not you have um, whether you have the ability to stick it out, whether you have the
Yep.
ability to see it through, whether you have the ability to take it from concept through to action, and then to success, right? Or failure, but that in and of
Mm-hmm.
itself is data, right? So my point is, you got to be there, you got to show up. And then if your name is known and if you've had the opportunity to meet those around you, part of that responsibility is on you. My responsibility, here's the truth. My responsibility is to open the door and get you at the table. Your
Mm-hmm.
responsibility is to take it from there, right? And
That's
so
right.
nobody's going to give it to you. And I think in this day and age, we've started to get it twisted that I see it all the time, and I'm sure you do, is
Mm-hmm.
that when new young people, we do lots of interns at Widener, and a lot of companies do, and when you talk to them and they say, well, what's in your 5 year horizon? Well, I want to be like Mr. Widener in 5 years. I'm
It's like,
like,
huh?
you just skipped 4 decades. You just you just decided you didn't want to put in the work. So there is something about opening the door, leveling the playing field, and ensuring that folks get access, and then pushing them forward while you remove barriers. But then there's also something about my personal responsibility about getting to work, right? And
Yes.
meeting the right people and connecting in a way that's authentic. And once you do that, I've found, frankly, this is a much smaller industry than people think. And
Yeah.
I've got now friends around the United States, folks that I can call and get opinions and input and advice from when I need to. And that's as a result of taking your God gifted talents and sharing them and connecting with folks. And so, um, to go back to your question, I decided I was running for an RVP, and I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I'm like, can I serve? Can I give back? Yeah. And so I'm proud to say that I've won an election to as an
Mm-hmm.
RVP one, two, three, 4 times. So I'm turned out. I'm done. I'm in the middle of my second year of my final term, and I'm excited. But I also, I mean, it's not quiet anymore. It's public now. I wanted to share with the rest of your viewers and the folks that I've finally evaluated where I'm at in my career. I've evaluated, my participation at the NA level and what I've done and what I can do. I spoke with my wife. I spoke with the owner of our company, and we've all agreed that this is the right time. And so I've put my name in to run for the executive committee, and eventually, if I'm selected to be the chairman of the board. So for those of you who are praying types, September 12th, I'll be in DC with a fine group of other folks who've thrown their names in the hat, and we'll be interviewing. So it might be news to some of you. Some of you all have been along with me on this journey since day one, but I'm excited about the opportunity to serve and to give back, and we'll see.
I mean, I'm just saying, if they can't say they don't get the hot tea, right? It's
Yes,
piping hot tea when you
dropping it.
listen to Talking with Ty, because you're always going to get some information. I kind of maybe thought that, suspected it, heard it in the streets a little bit, but you have confirmed it for
Yes,
us today. Um,
yes, it's
I
out
don't
there.
know who else will be in the room, so I'm making a very biased statement at this point, but there is no one better for this opportunity in the time that we are going in to lead the people, I will say. Um, People are craving change.
Mm,
Alex Jack, you said it. She said it, so it ain't me. Don't fight me. She
mm,
said she tired of seeing a bunch of old white men in the room.
mm.
Blame it on Alex when you see her. She said it. So just to be able to, even when I was standing with James Burwell one time, and he was like, "Do you know Greg Cerbana?" And he was just telling me all the things that you had did for him, and just being a mentor and a friend to him, and being able to see someone that looks like him, it makes a difference for
Mm,
us to be able to see you. And at something that you said, going back to something you said you talked about the connections on Facebook and how they taken the real connection from us being intentional. And that's something about our melanin and multifamily group. Ashia, Dana, Monica, Marcy, we talk on the phone. We're very intentional about keeping it together, and you can tell when we're out at the national events because we running and hollering and screaming and acting a fool for each other when somebody wins an award, because
mhm,
it really is. When you've been in this industry for so long and you've never seen people that look like you in a role of leadership, when you start seeing those people, when you start seeing the barriers break right in front of you, you start seeing the doors open up right in front of you, it just makes me want to serve more. It
mm.
makes me want to work harder. It makes me want to rally behind you and say, if Greg is in leadership, I'm doing all I can for Arkansas to make sure we show up and we show out. And I would do that for anybody that's in lead, because I love Rhonda to death too, like girl
Mm,
power. I'm all about girl power.
mhm.
But to see somebody that, when I look at you, I mean, I'm not Hawaiian. I didn't take your hair, but you almost could be my dad, Greg. Like, I'm not gonna say big brother because you're just a little bit older than I am. But like, we can be related. You could be my cousin.
Yes,
We
yes,
we really could be in the same family with each other. And even when I see Sloan, I feel the
yeah,
same way. I feel like we're all related to
yeah.
each other. And so when the family starts to make moves like that, I want you to know you have a community of people out here in this industry who love and adore you and are rooting for you and waiting for the announcement to be made so we can
Mm.
cheer you on and we can work until we cannot work anymore to make
Well, I
sure that your initiatives are taken care of.
yeah, I certainly appreciate it. And I'm not putting the cart before the horse. As I said, I looked at the slate of folks who put their names forward, and I'm proud. I'm proud
Yeah.
of people saying, "What can I do?" They've put aside, the challenges in their own lives or the things that are in there going on in their career. And they're saying, "How can I serve and what can I do?" And so I'm just honored to be in the picture. I think I have something to give. I believe there's a unique perspective. I don't take it for granted, and I really do appreciate all the well wishes, the thoughts, the prayers, the specific intentional, decisions to get onto Team Greg. If we were if we had an opportunity to get a hype team together, I would do it, but we don't. So I'm going to share something with you. This is a little inside baseball. As most of big my friend Big Tall Raymond. My daughter calls him Tall Raymond. So Raymond Van Beveren, and Raymond believes very strongly. Ooh, I'm putting his business out there. Hold on. People believe very strongly, and I think Raymond's one of them. That maybe the selection of who's going to be on the EC and eventually the board of directors is all predetermined. It's a script. There's this cabal of people making a decision. I can tell you something. Having served on the nominating committee, that is absolutely not the truth. Um, they are very serious and intentional. And it's the RVPs, right? It's
Mhm.
the nominating committee, which is made up of RVPs and then some past board chairs. They evaluate each one of those candidates. They look at what they submit. They look at their recommendations, right? The folks that
Mhm.
stand up on their behalf and have given formal input. Shout out to some of the folks who've been able to do that for me. Um, and they interview you, and there are questions that are asked of you, and they evaluate, and then they go back and then they talk through it, and then it's a real give and take in terms of those meetings and how that process happens. So I do think it's an authentic process.
Mhm.
I think I'm built, to kind of go through the process, and I'm don't get it twisted. I'm getting ready for this. I'm writing my answers out. I'm practicing and preparing. I may be calling some of you to get some input and your thoughts so I can share that, during that interview process. But I'm excited. And again, it goes back to giving back. I have the
Mhm.
opportunity, and I've worked long enough, and I've I have been the benefactor now of working for a gentleman who understands what it is to give back, both financially and with time and talent. And so he gives me the latitude and the opportunity to do this as part of my job. Um, so I want to make him proud too, right? I want to make my parents proud. I want my wife and my kids to be proud. I want
Mhm.
those who have looked at me as somebody who can. I'm not breaking any barriers. I don't think, but I am certainly kicking the door in a little bit, right? And allowing
Yes.
folks to potentially see themselves. And so that's it's frankly it's a heavy responsibility and one I don't take lightly. And so I'm gonna prepare. Like I said before, it's what the door can be opened, right? The
Yes.
seat at the table can be offered, but it's what you do with it. So, I've got 2 weeks to prepare for this. And a
Well,
lifetime,
and I
really.
like that you're
Yeah.
you're serious about it and you realize that it is a huge responsibility because heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Mm,
Like, and you said something that you referenced about being on committees, but it's cool to have your name on the placard. We all want to show up. We like to see our name in lights, but doing the work. I can assure you guys out there, if you are thinking about DEI committee with Kara House or RPM careers with Ashia Shepherd,
mm,
you are going to work
yeah.
because them ladies are going to call you. They gonna make sure, like, it's you are not gonna just sign up and work on their committees. You are going to do the work because they're serious about the work,
Yeah.
and we're serious about committee members. Like, we're networking
Yeah.
because we want to move the needle. We
Yeah. Let me
talk
give you.
the talk. It's time to walk the walk.
I'm going to give you a little bit of insight as well. And for those that are on here, I've had people ask me, how is it that you can get involved? How can you? What is the process? What's the mechanics of doing that? And really, as I said before, it's getting your name out there. But you actually have to meet the deadlines of putting your name forward, right? If you're interested in volunteering, you have to answer the call and submit your name that says, I want to be involved in these committees, right? And then, I mean, you got to be a self promoter. Nobody's going to promote you except for yourself, right? And those that that are committed to your cause, right? And so get to know the RVPs that are in your region because they make decisions, right? And each region, whatever region you're in, only has certain amount of numbers of folks that they can put on each committee, depending upon the size of your
Hmm.
region. They can have like an automatic placement of 2 people or 3 people or one person. So if you are committed and want, and by the way, government affairs historically and now DE&I, those two are the most heavily requested committees for people to serve on, right? And so uh, I'm going to respectfully ask that you don't get too upset if you don't get put on those committees,
Hmm.
because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be on those committees. Normally,
Yeah.
honest to God, in Region 7, we get at least 15 to 20 people every year that want to be on uh, government affairs or the ledge committee, and
Hmm.
we have two. We can put 2 people on there each year, right? DE
Yeah.
and I, same thing. Now, there's other ways to get on there, right? Each
Hmm.
time that there's a chairperson, the people can, in many committees, put somebody on that committee. They have the prerogative to do that. So if you
Okay.
know the chair of a certain committee that you want to be on and you may not get it through the RVP process, do that. And then finally, the overall board chair is the one who makes decisions on who the chairs of each one of their committees are. So, for example, Rhonda this year got an
Hmm.
opportunity to take a look and say, hey, yes, I agree that this is going to be the chair, and more importantly, the vice chair, because we are all trying to move on our standing committees
Hmm.
towards having some permanence, right? So you are going to apply somebody as a vice chair with the expectation that they're going to chair the next year, right? So that way
Yeah.
you're not having so much turnover and you're starting back at zero. And I know we have great staff at NAA, we have fantastic staff, um, but it is important to have our operations folks, everybody stand looking at this call right now, being involved and giving your input and perspective. So I guess what I'm saying is get to know the folks who are in leadership, so that way they can intercede on your behalf. And if you're interested, I mean, talk to me, talk to somebody else. I see Marcy over here. Marcy's has carved herself a place of influence in this industry, and
Yes.
there are others, right? And so that's
Just
the
talk
way.
to
And
somebody.
try it all. And by the way, another shout out for EI. I think EI is one of the core reasons why people are involved in associations. Period. Whether it's at the local affiliate or NAA.
Mhm.
So education, government affairs, and then connectedness, right? So get
Definitely.
involved in the EA. There's lots of different ways, or EI. There's lots of different ways for you to be involved there on the subcommittee level, the committee level, and just showing up in the room, right? So all these committee meetings, if you're there, you can sit in the dais, and frankly, I see some of the best questions come from people out in the in the
Yeah,
in
that's
the
sitting out
C-suite.
in the overflow.
Yeah,
So the first thing you got to do, guys, is show up.
show
Just
up.
show up.
You got to be there.
So, Greg, before we get, because we're almost at the top of the hour, we're at 49 minutes and 30 seconds. So I know, right? Time
Yeah,
flies when you're having fun. So we've talked about your humble beginnings. We talked about your succession through the multifamily industry. What's next for Greg? One thing we didn't talk about that I want
yeah.
to make sure we get a little insight to you, though. Greg is a dad.
Mm.
Aren't you a dad of daughters? I've seen some of your pictures on Facebook. Give us some. I want some of your business, though. Tell us some of your personal stuff. Dad,
Sure.
how's a dad? How is that?
I gotta tell you, when I look at the trajectory of my life, the things I'm the most proud of are my kids and my wife. My connectedness to my parents. I told you I went and had dinner with them and helped cut the grass and put together a table, and just the way in which you are can affect your circle. And I've told this to my kids. I have four of them, by the way.
Mhm.
Chelsea's the oldest. She's 31. Kai is 27. McKenna is 25, and Keikoa, my baby, is 22. And he's the only one that lives at the house right now because he just got his master's and he's going to be a teacher. He's entering the
Okay.
teaching profession. Next week, Monday, will be his first time. Say a prayer for this young man. Because we need good teachers, right? We need role models. We need folk. I couldn't do it. I would choke a kid out. I mean, I would choke my own kids out. So I
Uh-huh.
couldn't be in the public school system, private school system. But we need young people like that to do it. But I did tell him, I was like, look, son, I know you got your master's, you're all educated, you're more educated than I am, but you're not making a lot of money. Stay at home, clean your dishes, bring some food home once in a while, but live at home, save your money for 1 year. So
Mhm.
he's my baby. I kind of like it. I think it's going to be really quiet for Sloan and I when they finally do move out, but they are really the joy of my life, and I laugh each day with them, and I I wouldn't trade it for the world. We having four kids is not for the faint of heart. And somebody told me one time that when you go from two to three, you go from man to man to zone. And so we entered zone basketball a long time ago. But the richness of that, and the way in which we've been able to influence their lives, and what I was saying before was, I tell my kids all the time, look, we are in this interconnected world, right? And we
Mhm.
talk about the pros and the cons of being online. But I said, I think far too often people believe that their legacy, the things that they can influence, has to be worldwide to be of significance, has to make such a big difference. You have to have so many followers, or so many people have to like what you're doing or to affirm you that way. And I said, my responsibility is to you four and my
That's right.
wife. If I can't get that straight first, I have no business trying to influence somebody else. And so I every day try and figure out, what am I doing positively or negatively to influence my kids. And I haven't gotten it right. I've had to say I'm sorry more often than I care to
Mhm.
share with you. But that's part of being, humble. That's
That's
part
right.
of seeking forgiveness when you wrong somebody. That's part of being authentic and owning your mistakes, right? And so my kids are great. I love them. They've all chosen to live close to us, except for the eldest. But I love you, Chelsea. Bought her first house. Chelsea's a social worker, and she lives in St. Paul, Minnesota. The cool thing is, Widener has buildings in the Twin Cities, so I go there once a month. So I get a chance to see her, and it's very nice. But
You know
yeah,
what?
they're
I love it. You shine a light. You can see the happiness within you. You exude joy,
mm,
and you're such a pleasure to be around. I look forward to serving with you, to serving alongside you in this journey, to grow from you, to learn from you. And I mean, you're everything. I'm gonna go on record today saying you guys are right. Greg is everything that y'all told me that he
mm,
was. Because up until today, these are when I say unscripted, guys. Greg and I have not had a conversation prior to now.
nope.
I ain't even have his bio. I'm gonna put him out there. He told me some things this morning We ain't had no talking to each other.
My bad.
So you are a very warm-hearted person, and I truly believe that what comes from the heart reaches the heart. So I'm captivated today.
Ty, thank
I
you.
really am. I really
Ty,
am.
I see over here we're 54:11. You still gonna let me have at least 2 minutes to talk about the wife, right?
No, this is so I was not going to end
Oh,
without you ending with Sloan. So I said all of that to say we know the most important piece. And you said something about Sloan that I didn't even know. I didn't know she worked for an association. So before I let Greg say anything else, Greg has this amazing wife that every
mm,
time we see him, we see her. And I didn't learn that until the last time. And somebody was like, oh, that's Greg's wife, Sloan. And when you walk up to her, she's just as magical as you are. So to go through this industry with her, to have her by your side as your rock,
yeah.
tell us what that looks like for you and how that's supporting you to where you are now.
It's meant everything. I gotta tell you, we moved into our first apartment community, 30 years ago together. Well, first apartment community when I was in this industry, and so she's been on this journey with me. Driving properties, learning about what curb appeal was, figuring out whether balloons look good, why we needed annuals versus perennials. I mean, before she was even in the industry, she was like having to live that life out. But interestingly enough, I told you I was a founding board member of the apartment association. Back then, we were on a shoestring, right? There was not a lot of money, not a lot of folks. There was a lot of volunteers, but we had no staff. And when we got some staff, they turned over. And at that point, Sloan had gotten out of the professional world. She was in the optics. She used to work as a trainer in the optics world, but she decided I want to raise my children, and so she got the kids through kindergarten and into school. And at that time, the industry, the apartment association asked her if she would volunteer to do some training for them, and that was 15 years later. She just celebrated her 15th year at the apartment association, and so she's held all kinds of different roles with them. But currently, she's the vice president of operations, and she helps that association, one of the biggest associations throughout the affiliate network. I think we're number 5 in terms of total size, and that's happened over the last 20 years that I've been affiliated with them. But truthfully, I hired her one time to talk to my employees. I was working for Equity Residential one time, and she was a trainer, and so I hired her. That was the last time I ever hired her to talk to my employees because they all wanted to work for her afterwards, and they were for real. Like, is she hiring? And I was like, no, she's not hiring. And so but if you ever had the opportunity to work with her or to be alongside with her, she really is one of the most competent, professional, interesting, relational people. And I would say that whether we were married or not. And I'm not looking in the comments, but many of the people here today have had the opportunity to work for her. But find you somebody like that. That's my biggest, my biggest blessing in my world is having a partner that has held a mirror up to me sometimes,
That's
spoke
right.
truth into my life, supported me when I couldn't,
Hmm.
been there alongside and sometimes in front, sometimes just being a sounding board, being somebody that loves me, that approves of me, speaks affirmation into my life. And so yeah, man, she we've done all kinds of things together. I appreciate being able now to travel to NA events because she does that as part of her job. Matter of fact, you'll appreciate that as being an AE that they like her going now because she doesn't have to pay for a room because
Hmm.
I pay for the room and saves a little money for the association, but we get a chance to do things together. I will say, I'm looking at the time here, but I will say, our lives change, right? The seasons of your life change, and many of you know that there are times when I'm a hard charger and I'm out late. Um, that part of my life might be changing a little bit. Last couple times that her and I were out together in Atlanta, we looked at each other about 10:15, 10:30, which is about 2.5 hours later than she likes to be in bed, but she's a
Hmm.
trooper. And it's about 2.5, 3 hours earlier than I like to bed, but we've met in the middle and we may be dipping out sometimes. So that's just the way it goes. But she's the rock, certainly in my life, and is really a strong advocate for this industry. And I think Wumfa is very happy to have her, as is NAA. So thank you for letting me shout her out.
No, and thank you for sharing Sloan with us. Sloan, thank you because I know how it is to be married, sis. So thank you. for being the wife that you are and the rock that you are. We all know that the man is the head of the household, but the woman is the neck, and that head cannot turn without
Mm,
the neck. So we definitely see her and see the role that she plays and the role that what she brings to the multifamily industry. And she is definitely appreciated by all because when I hear your name, I never not hear her name in conjunction with it. So I wish you all the best. I am praying for you. I am rooting for you. And I just can't wait to see what happens in your journey and how you and I get to cross paths. And I just look forward to working with you. So I'm going to plug me too while I'm plugging
mm.
everybody else. If there's any opportunity for tie with you, never hesitate because my hand is up. I am in the room and I am definitely ready to work. So before we end today, Greg, is there anything else out there that you would like to say to the people?
Yeah, I would. I mean, I'll leave you with this quote, right? Maya Angelou once said, "Do the best you can until you know better, and then when you know better, do better." And that quote really is a simple truth. And it's we're all figuring out this thing called life, right? And we grow through it and we go through it. We're all doing the best that we can based on the information and the influence that we have on our lives, the resources that we have at our disposal. But some things are better learned through experience. So just do your best and don't be afraid to make mistakes. And when you have the opportunity to pour into somebody else's lives, go ahead and do that. So I mahalo you. I thank you for allowing me to share this time, this intersection of time with you and the rest of the folks here, and look forward to continuing to serve. And I look forward to seeing y'all hopefully at AOD and September 12th. Raise a prayer if you would.
Definitely will, Greg. Thank you. I know you're a busy man, and to carve out time for me, you just don't even know how much I appreciate that. I asked you once, and you said yes, and you made it happen for me. So thank you so much. September the 12th, I am standing with you in prayer. I am rooting you on, and I look forward to seeing you in California in November. All right.
Thank
Have
you.
an amazing day. Thank you
You
so
too.
much.
Aloha kako. Bye guys.